The most unsettling part was not the kiss itself. It was the way his hand did not move. Kasazana Thorn had been running. Seoul's autumn wind cut through the narrow alley behind Cheongdam-dong's vintage record bars, her long black hair whipping across her face. Her boyfriend, Jun-ho, had promised to meet her outside the speakeasy with the unmarked red door. But Jun-ho was late, again, and 2 drunk men in expensive leather jackets had started following her, whispering in Korean too fast for her to fully parse. But she caught the word "igugin," foreigner, and the laugh that followed. She turned a corner. A black sedan sat idling, engine humming like a restrained animal. The back door was slightly ajar. Through the tinted window, she saw the silhouette of a man in a dark suit, tall, broad-shouldered, waiting. Jun-ho wore dark suits. Jun-ho had broad shoulders. Jun-ho was supposed to pick her up in a black sedan. Panic erased caution. Zana yanked the door open, slid inside, and before the man could turn his head, she grabbed his silk tie, pulled his face toward hers, and pressed her lips directly against his mouth. It lasted 2 seconds, maybe 3, but in those seconds, she registered 3 things with horrifying clarity. 1. This man did not smell like Jun-ho's cedar and cheap cologne. He smelled like cold rain, black tea, and something metallic, clean, expensive, dangerous. 2. His lips did not move. Jun-ho always kissed back immediately, sloppy and eager. This man's mouth remained perfectly still, as if he were allowing an experiment to conclude. 3. His hand had risen to her waist, not to push her away, not to pull her closer, just to rest there, palm flat, fingers spread, measuring. Zana ripped herself backward, her spine hitting the opposite door. The interior lights of the sedan flickered on automatically, and she saw him, not because she was beautiful, though she was, with her small waist, radiant brown skin, and that rare, shy intensity behind her eyes, but because she had made a mistake, and instead of begging or crying or bargaining, she was simply staring at him with a kind of terrified dignity, as if waiting for a verdict. "What is your name?" he asked. "Why would I tell you? Because I will find out anyway. This way we save time." A long pause. Then, "Zana. Zana." He said it like he was tasting a new spice. "Where are you from, Zana?" "St. Louis, Missouri." "You are very far from home." "I noticed." The corner of his mouth twitched. It was not a smile. It was the shadow of a smile, a ghost of amusement that vanished before it could fully form. He unlocked the door. "Get out." She scrambled for the handle. "But," he added, and she froze. "If those men see you again or anyone like them, you will call this number." He slid a matte black business card from his inner pocket. No name, no title, just a phone number in silver foil. "Why would I call you?" "Because you kissed me," he said again. "And I have not yet decided if I will forgive you. Until I do, you belong to my attention." He dropped the card onto the seat beside her. Then he turned his head forward, dismissing her completely. Zana fled into the night. She ran 6 blocks before she realized she had taken the card. 2 weeks later, she saw him again. It was raining. She was leaving the National Museum of Korean Contemporary History, where she had been digitizing old court records for her remote archiving job. Her umbrella had broken. The bus had stopped running due to a political protest reroute. Her phone was at 2%. And across the plaza, standing alone under a black umbrella, was Kang Dae-hyun. He was not looking at her. He was looking at a bronze statue of a king. He wore a charcoal gray overcoat, no tie today, his white shirt open at the collar. Rain splashed the edges of his polished shoes. The bodyguard with the shaved head waited inside another black sedan at the curb. Zana told herself to walk the other way. Her feet did not listen. She stopped 3 feet from him. Water dripped from her soaked sweater. Her long hair clung to her face like seaweed. "You're following me," she said. He turned his head slowly. The beauty mark beneath his eye seemed darker in the rain. "No." "Then why are you here?" "I own this museum." She blinked. "You what?" "The Antiquities Wing. The Hanseong Collection. It is mine." He tilted his umbrella slightly, covering her head. Rain stopped pelting her. "You have been digitizing my records for 3 weeks. I saw your employee file yesterday. You looked me up? I told you I would find out anyway. Her phone buzzed with a low battery warning, then died. The screen went black. She stared at it, then at the rain, then at him. You need a ride, he said. Not a question. I need a bus. There are no buses. Then I'll walk. It is 40 minutes to your apartment in Itaewon. In this weather, you will be sick by morning. She narrowed her eyes. How do you know where I live? Employee file, he repeated. Then softer. I am not following you, Zana. I am protecting an asset. You happen to be one. An asset. You are careful with the records. Most digitizers rush. You do not. That is rare. He turned and began walking toward the sedan. After 3 steps, he paused. Are you coming? Every sane thought told her no. But her body was cold, her phone was dead, and something about the way he had said her name, Zana, made her feel less like a foreigner and more like a person being seen for the first time. She followed him to the car. Inside, the heat was gentle. The leather seats were warm. He sat on the opposite side, leaving an entire bench of space between them. The bodyguard, whose name, she would later learn, was Mr. Beck, drove without speaking. Why did you kiss me? Dae-hyun asked suddenly. He was looking out the window, his profile sharp against the gray Seoul skyline. I told you. I thought you were my boyfriend. Your boyfriend. Jun-ho. Her stomach dropped. You know his name? I know everything about everyone who touches my car. He turned to look at her. Jun-ho is a photographer. He is 27. He has debt to a loan shark in Hongdae. He has been late to meet you 7 times in the past month. He has never once introduced you to his parents. Zana's throat closed. Stop. He does not deserve you. You don't know me. I know you drink chamomile tea at night because coffee after 6 p.m. gives you anxiety. I know you have a younger brother named Tabo who calls you every Sunday from Cape Town. I know you hum Kosa lullabies when you think no one is listening. He paused. I know you are shy but not weak. I know you were scared of me, but you got in this car anyway. That is not stupidity. That is courage. The car stopped at a red light. Rain streaked the windows. Zana's heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her temples. What do you want from me? She whispered. Dae-hyun held her gaze for a long, unbearable moment. Then he said quietly, I want to find out what happens when someone like you kisses someone like me on purpose. The light turned green. The car moved. Zana did not speak again until they reached her apartment. She got out, walked to her door, and only when she turned the key did she realize he had not asked for her address. He had already known it. Inside, she leaned against the door and pressed her fingers to her lips. They still remembered the stillness of his mouth, the way he had not kissed back, the way he had not moved. That was the most unsettling part. He had let her kiss him, and now she was terrified to admit. She wanted to know what would happen if she did it again. 3 days after the rain, a package arrived at Zana's apartment. No return address, no courier signature, just a flat white box tied with charcoal silk ribbon. Inside, an umbrella, not the cheap kind from Banli Dan, convenience stores. This one was made of thick black cotton, with a curved silver handle engraved with a single character Ang, Kong. A note in perfect English, handwritten in ink that smelled faintly of tea. You broke yours. I noticed. No name, but Zana knew. She did not use the umbrella. She placed it on her desk and stared at it for 2 hours while she worked, translating an 18th century inventory of royal lacquerware. The character Kong seemed to pulse in the corner of her eye. That evening, she walked to the small grocery store in Itaewon without it. It was not raining. She was making a point. But when she reached the store, Mr. Beck was standing outside. Not the sedan. Just Mr. Beck, in a black raincoat, holding a paper bag. For you, he said, and left before she could respond. Inside the bag, a box of chamomile tea. Not the grocery store brand. A loose-leaf variety from a shop in Insadong that she had mentioned wanting to try once, in a passing comment to a coworker. Also a small ceramic jar of honey with a handwritten label. Acacia. Better than sugar. Zana stood in the middle of the grocery store aisle, holding the honey, and felt something crack open in her chest. Not fear. Something warmer. Something worse. She called Junho that night. "Where have you been?" he asked, his voice distracted. She heard music in the background. "Party. I need to ask you something. Can it wait? I'm at this thing. Do you know where I live?" A pause. "What? Of course. Itaewon, right? Near the mosque. What's my apartment number?" Another pause. Longer. "Babe, you know I'm bad with numbers." Zana closed her eyes. "Yeah," she said quietly. "I know." She hung up. Then she stared at the phone for a long time. Finally, she pulled out the matte black business card she had kept hidden in her nightstand drawer. The silver numbers gleamed. She did not call, but she did not throw the card away either. The next day, she went back to the museum. Not for work, her digitization contract had ended. She went because she needed to return the umbrella. That was what she told herself. She walked to the antiquities wing, asked the front desk for Kang Dae-hyun, and was immediately escorted to a private elevator that required a fingerprint scan. The elevator opened onto a floor that did not exist on any public map. Glass walls, silk curtains, a desk made from a single slab of dark walnut, and Kang Dae-hyun, sitting in a leather chair, reading a newspaper in Korean. He did not look up. "You came to return this." She set the umbrella on his desk. He glanced at it, then at her. She was wearing a deep rust-colored jumpsuit with wide legs, a thick brown belt, and her grandmother's gold bangles. Her hair was in a single braid down her back. No makeup except for a swipe of clear gloss. "You did not use it," he observed. "I don't accept gifts from strangers." "We are not strangers." He folded the newspaper. "You kissed me. That makes us something else. It makes us a mistake. Then why are you still here?" The question hung between them like smoke. Zana wanted to leave. She had planned to leave. But her feet had rooted themselves to his expensive wool carpet, and her eyes kept catching on the way his shirt cuffs were rolled to his forearms, revealing lean muscle and silver cufflinks shaped like tiny wolves. "Who are you?" she asked. "Really?" Dae-hyun stood. He was taller than she remembered, not towering but solid, with a long, clean line from shoulders to hips. He walked around the desk and stopped 2 feet from her. "I am a man who collects rare things," he said. "Antiques. Art. Information." His eyes dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. "And people who make mistakes." "That's not an answer. It is the only one you are ready to hear." He reached out, slowly, giving her time to flinch or step back. She did neither. His fingers brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, tucking it behind her ear. The touch was feather-light, but it burned. "Junho called you tonight," he said. Her breath caught. "How do you know that?" "Because I know everything." He let his hand fall. "He called because you hung up on him yesterday, and he finally noticed. He wants to take you to dinner tomorrow night to apologize. He will be late. He will order for you without asking what you want. He will spend the entire meal on his phone. And you will come home disappointed. You don't know that." "I do, because I know him. And I know you." He stepped back. "Go to dinner. Prove me wrong." "I would love to be wrong about Junho." Zana left without another word. She went to dinner. Junho was late. He ordered for her spicy rice cakes, which she had told him 3 times she could not eat because of her acid reflux. He spent 45 minutes on his phone editing photos. When she tried to tell him about the museum, he said, "That's nice, babe." Without looking up, she came home disappointed. At 11:47 p.m., she pulled out the business card. Her thumb hovered over the phone screen. She did not call. But at 11:48 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "He does not deserve you," Dae-hyun said. His voice was lower at night, rougher, like gravel wrapped in silk. "I told you so. How did you get this number?" "You gave it to the museum security desk when you signed in." That's an abuse of access." "Yes. No apology." "Are you crying?" She wiped her cheek. "No. You are a terrible liar. Why do you care if I'm crying?" A long silence. Then, "Because you kissed me. And I have decided what I want." Her heart stopped. "What?" I want you to do it again. On purpose this time. The line went dead. He had hung up. Zana stared at her phone for an hour. Then she crawled into bed, pulled the covers over her head, and whispered to the dark. What is wrong with me that I want to say yes? He did not contact her for 1 week. 7 days of silence. 7 days of Zana checking her phone every 12 minutes. 7 days of Junho making vague promises to do better and then disappearing into his photography deadlines. 7 days of her walking past the umbrella, the Kong umbrella, propped against her desk untouched, accusing. On the 8th day she snapped. She took the business card. She called the number. A woman answered. Wowell Group, Mr. Kang's office. How may I direct your call? Zana almost hung up. Then she thought of his voice saying on purpose this time, and her thumb pressed firmly against the screen. Tell him Zana wants to meet. 15 minutes later, a black sedan arrived. Not the same one. This one was longer, darker, with windows so tinted they were almost mirrors. Mr. Beck opened the back door. Dae-hyun sat inside. He was wearing a deep navy suit, no tie, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. A thin silver chain disappeared beneath the fabric. His hair was slightly damp, as if he had just showered. Get in, he said. She got in. The sedan drove. They did not speak for 10 minutes. Zana watched Seoul slide past. The sleek towers of Gangnam, the older brick buildings of Siademan, then a gate she had never noticed before, hidden between 2 commercial buildings. The sedan slipped through the gate and into an underground garage that smelled of concrete and expensive leather. Where are we? My home. He led her through a private elevator, more fingerprints, into a penthouse that should not have existed. Not because it was ostentatious. It was not. There were no marble floors or crystal chandeliers. Instead, dark wood, soft lighting, walls of books in Korean, English, and Chinese. A single painting hung above a low sofa, an abstract landscape in shades of indigo and rust. The windows faced east, overlooking a small mountain she had never seen before, covered in autumn foliage. You live here? She asked. I exist here. He gestured to the sofa. Sit. She sat. He did not. He stood by the window, backlit by the setting sun, and watched her with those hooded, unreadable eyes. You called, he said. You asked me to. I asked you to kiss me, not to call. Her face flushed. Is that the only thing you want from me? A kiss? No, he turned from the window and walked toward her, slow and deliberate. I want more, but I will not take it. You must give it. Give what? He stopped directly in front of her. So close she could see the individual lashes around his sharp eyes. The beauty mark beneath his left eye. The tiny scar. No, not a scar, just a faint line. On his lower lip from a childhood fall, he would later tell her. Everything, he said quietly. I want you to give me everything. And in return, I will give you the same. Zana's breath was shallow. That's not how relationships work. This is not a relationship. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. This is a contract. I protect you. I provide for you. I will never lie to you, and I will never be late. In exchange, you belong to me, not as property, as a choice. Every day you choose to stay, and if you stop choosing, you walk away. No questions, no revenge, just the door. She should have run. Every logical part of her brain was screaming, but the shy, quiet part, the part that had hummed lullabies alone in her apartment, the part that had kissed a stranger in a panic, the part that had kept his business card, that part leaned forward. And if I kiss you now, she whispered, then I will know you chose. She kissed him, not like before, not panicked, not mistaken. Slowly, softly, her lips pressed against his, and this time he kissed back. His hand came up to her jaw, gentle but firm, tilting her face exactly where he wanted it. His mouth was warm, deliberate, tasting of black tea and something darker. He did not rush. He did not grab. He kissed her like she was a rare manuscript and he was reading every page. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were wet. Why me? She asked. He rested his forehead against hers. Because you got in the wrong car. Because you kissed me without knowing who I was. Because you are shy, but you are not afraid of me. And because, he paused. When you look at me, you do not see a monster. Are you a monster? I have done monstrous things. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But I have never wanted to be good for someone. Until you. Outside, the sun set behind the mountain. Inside, Zana Thorne from St. Louis, Missouri, with South African roots and a heart full of fear, made a choice. She stayed. 3 months later, she learned what Wawul Group really meant. It happened on a Tuesday. Dae-hyun had been distant for a week. Shorter texts. Later returns home. A tightness around his eyes that she had learned to recognize as danger. He had stopped kissing her goodbye in the mornings. He had started sleeping with one eye open. Zana confronted him in his study. He was sitting at his walnut desk, cleaning a gun. She stopped in the doorway. You said you would never lie to me. He did not look up. I have not lied. You omitted. Omitting is not lying. It is when the omission changes everything. She stepped into the room. Her voice shook, but she kept it steady. You're not just an antique dealer. You're not just a collector. You're mafia, Dae-hyun. I saw the news this morning. The police raid on the Southern District. They mentioned Wawul. He set the gun down. Slowly, he raised his eyes to hers. For the first time since she had met him, he looked tired. Not dangerous, just tired. Sit down, he said. She sat, and he told her everything. His father had started the organization as a small loan shark operation in the 1980s. Dae-hyun had inherited it at 22. After his father was killed in a rival gang's hit, he had spent 8 years legitimizing what he could. The antiques, the real estate, the private security contracts, while quietly dismantling the worst of the old business. But some things could not be undone. Some enemies could not be forgiven. The police raid was not about me, he said. It was about a faction that broke away 2 years ago. They use Wawul's name to traffic goods. I have been trying to stop them. By killing them? He was silent. Dae-hyun, I have never killed an innocent person. His voice was very low. But I have killed. And I will probably kill again before this is over. Zana felt the floor drop out from under her. She had known. Somewhere deep she had known. But hearing him say it was different. I need to think, she said. He nodded. The door is open. I meant what I said. She walked to the door. Then she stopped. The men in the alley, she said without turning around. The night I got in your car. Would they have hurt me? A long pause. Then, yes. And you? I would have burned the city down to find them. She turned. He was still sitting at the desk, still watching her. His hands resting on the gun like it was the only anchor he had. I'm not leaving, she said. His composure cracked. Just a fraction. His jaw tightened. His eyes glistened. Why? He asked. Because you didn't lie. Because you showed me the gun. Because when I kiss you, you kiss back like I'm the only real thing in your life. She walked back to him, took the gun from his hands and set it aside. Then she sat on his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck, and pressed her forehead to his. I'm not leaving, she repeated. But you have to promise me something. Anything. When this is over, when the bad men are gone, you walk away. You sell the company. You become just a man who collects antiques and drinks too much black tea. And you come home to me every night. He closed his eyes. A single tear slipped down his cheek. The first she had ever seen him cry. I promise, he whispered. She kissed him. And this time it was not a mistake. Not a contract. Not a choice. It was a vow. Took 11 months. 11 months of shadows. 11 months of Mr. Beck driving her to work and back. Of Dae-hyun coming home with blood under his fingernails. Of sleepless nights where she held him while he trembled from things he would never describe. 11 months of her learning to load a gun just in case. 11 months of him learning to say I love you in Kosa and Daikathanda, which he practiced in the shower when he thought she could not hear. The final confrontation happened in a warehouse near Incheon. Zana was not there. She learned about it later from Mr. Beck, who drove her to the hospital at 3 a.m. Dae-hyun was sitting on a gurney in the emergency room. A bandage around his forearm. No scars, just a shallow cut. He was arguing with a nurse in rapid Korean about leaving against medical advice. Then he saw Zana. He stopped arguing. You're bleeding, she said. It's nothing. You're an idiot. Also nothing new. She walked to him, took his unbandaged hand, and pulled him to his feet. Take me home. At the penthouse, she made him sit on the sofa. She cleaned the cut herself, slowly, carefully, her hand steady even though her heart was not. He watched her in silence. It's over, he said finally. The faction? Gone. Arrested or worse. He caught her wrist. I kept my promise. No innocence. She set down the bandage. And Wowell. Sold. Legitimate sales only. The antique business stays. Everything else. He exhaled. Gone. She looked at him. Really looked. The sharp jaw. The hooded eyes. The beauty mark. The hands that had held a gun and now held hers like she was made of glass. What do we do now? She asked. He pulled her onto his lap, wrapped his arms around her small waist, and buried his face in her long black hair. We live, he said, quietly, boringly. You drink your chamomile tea. I read my newspapers. We argue about what to watch on television. She laughed. A real laugh, the first one in months. That sounds terrible. It sounds like heaven. 3 years later, they got married. Not in a grand ceremony. Not in a hotel or a wedding hall. They married on a small hill behind the penthouse, the same hill she had seen from his window on the first night she stayed. Autumn again. Red and gold leaves falling around them like confetti. Mr. Beck officiated. He had cried. He would deny it forever. Zana wore a deep burgundy velvet dress, fitted at the waist, flaring at her hips, with long sleeves and a high neck. Her hair was loose, flowing down her back, threaded with small gold beads her brother Tabo had sent from Cape Town. No veil, just her grandmother's bangles and a smile so wide it hurt. Daehyun wore a black suit, no tie, his silver wolf cufflinks. His hair had grown longer, softer. He had started sleeping through the night. He had started smiling, small, rare smiles that only she could see. When the officiant said, "You may kiss," he did not rush. He cupped her face in both hands, looked into her big dark eyes, and said, loud enough for the small crowd to hear, Ndaya Kathanda, Zana Thorne. She kissed him. On purpose. Forever. And the most unsettling part, the part that would make the story viral, that would make millions of viewers hit replay, was not the guns or the mafia or the mistaken kiss in the black sedan. It was this. A shy black woman from St. Louis, with South African roots and a quiet heart, had walked into the wrong car and found the right monster. And he had spent the rest of his life becoming a man worthy of her mistake. A black sedan idles in front of a small cafe in Itaewon. Inside, a little girl with long braids and sharp, hooded eyes bounces on the back seat. Appa, she says, tell me the story again, about how Iyama kissed you by accident. Daehyun glances at Zana in the passenger seat. She rolls her eyes, but she's smiling. No, he says to his daughter. That story is rated for adults. Then tell me the boring version. Zana reaches back and tickles her daughter's knee. The boring version is that your father is a very lucky man. Daehyun starts the engine. The correct version, he says, pulling into traffic, is that your mother is the bravest woman in Seoul. The little girl giggles. The sedan drives toward the mountain. And somewhere, a business card with silver numbers sits in a drawer, next to an umbrella engraved with the character Kong.
Hey loves, this story teaches us that the wrong door can lead you to the right person, but only if you have the courage to stay when it gets hard, and the strength to choose what comes next after one unexpected moment changes everything. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like and subscribe.